He sent 3 ciphers. 2 were cracked, but one, just 13 characters, has defeated every cryptographer, every codebreaker, every FBI analyst who ever looked at it. 13 characters. That's it. A message so short it could fit in a single text message. And yet, more than 50 years later, nobody on Earth knows what it says. Or maybe, and this is the question that keeps people up at night, maybe it doesn't say anything at all. Maybe that was the whole point. This is Z13, the cipher the Zodiac Killer sent in 1969, the one that was never solved. And today, we're going to dig into something even darker than the code itself, the people who might have written it. To understand Z13, you need to understand the Zodiac's obsession with codes. In the summer of 1969, a serial killer operating in Northern California began sending taunting letters to police and newspapers. He called himself the Zodiac. He claimed to have killed 5 people. Some investigators believe the real number was much higher. But what made the Zodiac different from other killers wasn't just the murders, it was the games. He sent cryptograms, ciphers, daring the public to decode them. He wrote things like, "I like killing people because it is so much fun." Charming guy. Now here's where it gets complicated. The Zodiac sent 4 major ciphers over the course of his correspondence. 3 of them, Z408, Z340, and Z32, were eventually decoded, or at least partially cracked. But the 4th, Z13, has never been solved. The full name is the "My Name Is" cipher, because in the letter that accompanied it, the Zodiac wrote that the cipher contained his real name. "My name is," followed by 13 scrambled symbols. 13 characters. His name. That was the promise. Or was it a lie? Here's the problem with C13, and it's a very specific, very frustrating problem. 13 characters is not enough data. When cryptographers try to crack a code, they rely on patterns, letter frequency, repeated sequences, structural clues. The longer the message, the more patterns emerge. The more patterns emerge, the more likely a solution becomes. 13 characters gives you almost nothing to work with. It's like trying to solve a 1,000-piece puzzle with 13 pieces. So the first big question is, was this intentional? Theory number 1. The Zodiac made a mistake. Some researchers believe the Zodiac made an error. The idea goes like this. The Zodiac used a homophonic substitution cipher for his longer codes, a system where one letter can be represented by multiple symbols. With 13 characters, the system becomes so compressed that the solution collapses in on itself. There's simply not enough room for the cipher to work properly. In this theory, the Zodiac wanted to send his name, botched the encryption, and ended up with an unsolvable mess. A mistake, a sloppy exit. Theory number 2. The Zodiac was trolling all of us. The other theory is darker, and frankly, more in keeping with the Zodiac's personality. What if C13 was never meant to be solved? What if he deliberately constructed a cipher that was too short to crack, knowing full well that it would torture investigators for decades? He was already taunting the police in his letters. He explicitly mocked the SFPD. He loved the power of knowing something no one else knew. And what better way to maintain that power forever than to send a name that can never be confirmed or denied? Let that sink in. If that's the case, Z13 isn't a clue, it's a trap, and we've all been walking into it for 50 years. Over the decades, amateur codebreakers and professional investigators have come up with proposed solutions to Z13. The problem is that none of them hold up under scrutiny, and some of them are, to be honest, embarrassingly bad. Let's run through the main candidates, not just the names, but why the solutions failed. Candidate number 1, Lawrence Kane. Kane is one of the most frequently cited Zodiac suspects overall. He was a real estate broker with a history of predatory behavior toward women. Investigators noted several circumstantial connections to Zodiac crime scenes and timelines. When cryptographers tried to force his name into Z13, some claimed a partial match. But here's the issue. With only 13 symbols, you can manipulate almost any short name to produce a plausible-looking fit. The cipher doesn't definitively confirm Kane. It doesn't definitively eliminate him either. The code is just too short. Candidate number 2, Arthur Lee Allen. Allen is probably the most famous Zodiac suspect of all time. He was a convicted sex offender. He wore a Zodiac brand watch. He had access to the areas where crimes occurred. Don Cheadle's character in the 2007 film Zodiac was based largely on Allen's profile. But Allen died in 1992 before DNA and fingerprint analysis ruled him out. The FBI's forensic evidence did not match Allen, and when his name was tested against Z13, researchers couldn't produce a clean solution, only forced matches that required manipulating the cipher's rules to make them work. When you have to break your own decryption method to make a name fit, that name doesn't fit. Candidate number 3, Richard Gaikowski. Gaikowski was a journalist and filmmaker who worked for underground Bay Area newspapers in the late 1960s. He was a much later suspect, championed primarily by researcher Blaine Blaine and a small but passionate group of investigators. The proposed Z13 match for Gaikowski's name, sometimes encoded as GYKE, has attracted some attention, but independent cryptographers haven't been able to verify the decryption method. Again, the core problem is consistency. The method used to arrive at the solution would need to be valid across all Zodiac ciphers, and it hasn't proven to be. Candidate number 4, the unknown schoolteacher. One of the more recent and genuinely interesting theories involves an unnamed schoolteacher in the Valley A area. The theory is based on behavioral profiling rather than direct cipher analysis, the idea being that the Zodiac's writing style, vocabulary choices, and geographical knowledge suggest an educated person with access to local youth culture. But without a specific name to test, this theory can't produce a Z13 candidate at all. It remains in the realm of behavioral speculation, not cryptographic proof. Every single proposed solution to Z13 shares the same fatal flaw. The cipher is too short to produce a unique, verifiable answer. You can fit almost any short name into 13 characters if you're flexible enough with the rules, and flexibility in cryptography isn't analysis, it's wishful thinking. In 2020, a team of amateur codebreakers, led by Dave Joranchak, Sam Blake, and Jarl Van Egg, cracked C340, the 340-character cipher the Zodiac had sent in 1969. It had resisted decryption for 51 years. The solution required advanced computer analysis and a crucial insight into the Zodiac's encryption method. It was a massive breakthrough, and it immediately made everyone ask the same question. Could the same techniques be applied to Z13? The short answer is, not really. Joranchak himself has addressed Z13 publicly, and the conclusion is sobering. The Z340 solution worked because there was enough data, enough characters, for patterns to emerge. With Z13, even the most sophisticated algorithmic approaches return hundreds of plausible solutions. The math simply cannot narrow it down. Think of it this way. If Z340 was a fingerprint with enough ridge detail to make an ID, Z13 is a smudge. You can tell something touched the paper, you can't tell who. Some researchers have suggested that the key might lie in cross-referencing Z13 with Z32, the 32-character cipher the Zodiac sent with instructions that it would reveal where a bomb was planted. Z32 hasn't been fully and definitively solved either. If both short ciphers were constructed using the same system, analyzing them together might provide more data points than analyzing either one alone. It's a theory, it hasn't produced answers yet. At this point, you might be asking, why does this still matter? The Zodiac Killer's active period was more than 50 years ago. Most of the primary suspects are dead. Law enforcement has largely moved on. But Z13 matters for a reason that goes beyond the Zodiac specifically. The Zodiac case is one of the most heavily studied unsolved crimes in American history. It has shaped how law enforcement approaches serial killer correspondence. It influenced the development of forensic linguistics, the study of language patterns as investigative tools. The cryptographic techniques developed to crack Z340 have applications far beyond this single case. And then there's the human dimension. The Zodiac killed real people. He destroyed real families. His victims, David Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen, Darlene Ferrin, Cecilia Shepard, Paul Stein, and the others, deserve closure. If Z13 contains a real name, that name belongs to someone who murdered people and spent the rest of his life watching investigators fail to identify him. If Z13 is a hoax, if it never contained a real name at all, then that's a different kind of answer. It means the Zodiac's final joke was successful. He died anonymous. He got exactly what he wanted. Either way, the code matters. 13 characters. His name. Or so he claimed. The Zodiac Killer wrote letters taunting police. He sent ciphers designed to be decoded. He built a mythology around his own mystery. And the one thing he said would reveal him, the one piece of the puzzle that was supposed to close the case, is the one thing no one has ever cracked. Was it a mistake? A trap? A genuine clue waiting for the right mind? We don't know. That's the point. After more than 50 years, Z13 remains exactly what the Zodiac probably intended it to be. Unsolvable. If you think you've cracked it, or if you know something we don't, drop it in the comments. 50 years of failed attempts, and one of you might just be the one who changes that. Subscribe for more unsolved mysteries, and watch your back.